Beam me aboard. Energize.
Energizing.
Kirk to transporter room. Report.
You're listening to Transporter Room 3 with your hosts, Phil Perello and Scott Calora.
Welcome back, listeners. This is Transporter Room 3, 2013 edition.
Whoa.
This is season 3. And
Uh-oh, you know what that means.
that means we have 3 people on. Yay! Actually, we're just going to reenact Ensigns of Command.
You missed it, Jordan, but we were just talking about, before you came on, we were talking about how the season 3 opener was Ensigns of Command, where that sort of ersatz Tony Curtis guy is the antagonist, and he when Data has to build an aqueduct or something.
Oh, okay, yeah. But I mean, see, I was immediately go to Spock's brain when I hear season 3, so.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, season 3 Next Generation was not bad, actually.
It just keeps going for the other for season 3 for Enterprise is when it became a real show.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Yeah. So
a real show that they canceled.
Bastards.
So let's introduce Jordan. Actually, we have our occasional guest Jordan Hoffman with us. He's an esteemed Star Trekologist.
Nice
I
to
like
be back.
that title, a Star Trekologist.
Well, I got that from you, Phil, because you told me that you had a PhD in Star Trek 5-ology.
Oh, that is true. It's a very niche concentration. My thesis was making a Rockman.
You got an incomplete on that, obviously.
I did. I clearly did. Then I asked, what does God need with a B-?
So there was a little bit of Star Trek related news while we were away between seasons, wasn't there?
Oh, a little, just a little.
Well, actually, no. There wasn't Star Trek news. There was simply news that couldn't help but affect the Star Trek fan.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Break it down for us, Phil.
Oh, it hurts so much. As we all know, Mr. J.J. Abrams' turncoat is going to be directing Episode 7 of the new Star Wars trilogy. And what we don't know is exactly how that's going to impact the current Star Trek franchise. But I like the way Scott put it. It's like he got Star Trek pregnant and then left for a sexier model.
I think that's a riff on something I saw you say on Twitter, though, Jordan.
Yeah, no, well, I wrote, which was later quoted in Mashable and some other places, was, JJ took us to the prom and left for the hotter girl. I mean, that's basically it. First of all, a couple of things. Number one, I have no ill will towards Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I think Star Wars is the best.
Sure.
There are a couple of movies, whereas Star Trek is, a real thing, but they're fine. And I think he's going to make a great Star Wars movie. It's just really annoying. And I don't want to. We like to have fun and games here in Transporter Room 3. I don't like to make it too serious. But the truth of the matter is that, we really do take this franchise, rather seriously. It means a lot to us. And
of course,
it was clear from day one that J.J. Abrams, an extremely talented individual, a very sharp guy, really didn't give a shit about the Star Trek legacy. He even said so. That was part of his early talking points from his very first press tour. Was he distanced himself because he thought it would make sense to say, I'm not a Star Trek fan because Star Trek is lame, but I'm going to make it cool. That was sort of his early strategy.
Right.
An incredibly obnoxious thing to do. And he made a great film. As we get distance from it, and if the second one is no good, we'll be able to say he made a great film, but not a great Star Trek film. But I'm still hesitant to make that declaration yet. And the fact that he basically, like we say, he just up and left for this other one is really annoying because, clearly he was always a Star Wars fan. He wanted to make Star Wars, but that was off the table. He said, okay, I'll do this other project instead. What a humble individual would do when presented with this new opportunity, would say, thanks, I'm all good. You know, I've got this other property. It's scratching that itch for me. I have legions of fans here. I don't want to, you know, get up and go and do the, you know, the other slightly more popular franchise. I'm good with what I've got. Instead, you know, the impression that we all get is that he's a you know, a greedy kid at somebody else's birthday party eating all the cake, and it's just it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. There's no other way to describe it as obnoxious. You know, and you know, they'll say, "Oh, well, Steven Spielberg really begged him to do it." Oh, who cares? He's an adult. Steven Spielberg's not his father.
And who? I mean, who? Do we know that Spielberg?
There was, I think, in the Hollywood Reporter's article about it, there was an implication that conversations were had with Spielberg first. Okay. I think Kathleen Kennedy went to Spielberg first. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think they went to Spielberg first, and Spielberg demurred, and then he suggested Abrams, and then there was a conversation. I mean, what's funny is just a couple of weeks ago, I was singing Abrams' praises. Excuse me. There was this story that came out about this fella here in New York who was on his deathbed. He really wanted to see the film, and within a couple of days, they raced. You know, they got a copy of the film to him, and then he saw it and loved it and died. You all heard that story,
sure?
Right.
And that was done. And between you and me and the listeners of Transporter Room 3, I was very, very, very loosely involved in helping that happen.
Oh wow,
that's awesome.
Well, I was just somebody who helped. If it hadn't been me, it would have been 25 other people. But I was among the first people to get that to the attention to someone at Paramount, who then got it to the attention of Abrams people. Okay. So I you know, I'm not taking credit, but I can tell you that the Abrams people did not want any publicity on that. If you look back at the reports, you'll see that they never commented on it.
That's right.
And they never confirmed it or denied it. They just never mentioned anything about it. And the story happened. The story broke on December 27th, which is the zone between Christmas and New Year's. So there was no news, which is why that story went around the world 3 times. I mean, it was printed in international papers because there was nothing else to talk about during that week.
Yeah.
Had it happened any other week, it would have not made that much of an impact. So the point I'm making is that, and Abrams himself was quick to decide, yes, we'll do this, and he made it happen. So the point I'm making is that he's a good guy. And
I mean, you know, he did something that a human being should do. Well, okay. I guess that makes him a good guy.
If you have that in your power.
Yeah, all right, but we all know Hollywood, and we know that they're not good guys. So he's a reasonable man, and he didn't go the extra mile and appear on Entertainment Tonight with this guy. There are no photos of him hugging him or anything like that, because that would have been a little bit creepy. He not only did a good thing, he did it the right way. So that's cool. But then this thing happens, and you go, well, what's wrong? Like, why? It's like, oh, why does J.J. Abrams do everything in his power to make me dislike him when he should be the guy that I love?
And I want to get back. I want to get back to your dislike of Abrams, because I read the story that you wrote when before Trek 2009 came out the other day, where there was some real vitriol directed at Abrams. But I wanted to just point out, don't you think it's the characteristics of Abrams like this that make him so successful in Hollywood these days? Like, I mean, you have to be the guy who's willing to jump ship and take the next big thing, and there's nothing about loyalty or any of that really in Hollywood, right?
To be a certain type of Hollywood person,
right.
Sure.
Well, to be a modern, I mean, you know, it's not, this isn't the new age. He's not making Midnight Cowboy or something.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, there are people, you know, Quentin Tarantino does what he wants to do, and he manages to do a good job of it because he's got the talent. I mean, JJ has
that's a very unique case.
Sure,
though.
But I guess the thing is, JJ's talents are very mainstream. He makes really good mainstream stuff. You know, probably some of the best. I mean, listen, I don't watch all of the TV shows he has his name branded on. I mean, there's like every season there's 3 new things that he's loosely affiliated with. But you know, sort of the stuff that really comes from him, by and large, is pretty good. I guess, I don't know. And then there's the other sort of big elephant in the room is like, should one man have this much power? I mean, he's like Khan, I mean, should one man direct the two biggest franchise? I mean, what are the three biggest franchises in the world? Star Wars, Star Trek, and James Bond. Those are the three biggest franchises in the world.
Well, Harry Potter's up there too.
Well, that's true. I mean, yeah.
But Harry Potter's done though.
Yeah, but
Is it
Star Wars? I mean, that's the thing.
Abrams is going to spearhead that one now, guys.
It just makes him look like a douche. I mean,
Well,
you'd think his wife would say, Jerome or whatever his real name is, Jerome, chill out, like too bad you missed the train. I mean, he would have said, oh shoot, I wished I could have done Star Wars, but I can't because I'm doing Star Trek. Well, go take a money bath, cry the way zillionaires do. I mean, you can't get everything you want.
What's wrong with Kathleen Kennedy? We don't want this to become
she's
a Star Wars
smart.
podcast.
He is a good guy. From a Star Wars point of view, he's the perfect choice. He's great.
Yeah, but you don't think it dilutes Star Wars
a bit? Because Abrams' style is he's got a lot of zing, he's got a lot of pop. He's perfect for Star Wars because he's good but not that individualist.
But don't you think he might have blown his load already?
No. And listen, Star Wars, we all know, is a lesser brand, so it doesn't have to be as good. It just has to be flashy and filled with lots of cool shit. I mean, then the kids will like it.
Like Star Trek 2009.
Well, Star Trek 2009 does have a little bit of heart in there. Maybe I'm just projecting because Nimoy shows up, but I will give that movie credit still. I watched it again for the 25th time not that long ago. It's still pretty damn good, I gotta say. But so with Kathleen Kennedy makes a really good choice. But it's on him. It's on him to have said no. She made the right choice. I mean, who else would you? Anybody else you would pick, unless they were somewhat of an unknown, like a Richard Marquand a la Return of the Jedi, would be too individualist. Like some of the other names that were flying around.
Well, Marquand was just a hired gun, though.
Right. That's what I figured they were going to do with this. I thought they were going to go with somebody going, huh, that guy? Like, James Mangold for the Wolverine. They go, huh? Right. James Mangold? And then, he can pull it off. I think he will.
Right.
But, like they were saying, who were some of the rumored people? They were talking about, Joseph Kosinski from Tron Legacy. I'm like, well, no, that guy doesn't know anything about film. He just makes pictures. So then it was going to be, there were a lot of people, a lot of names that people.
Matthew Vaughn from.
Right. And Matthew Vaughn, I think, is too individualist. He's got too much spike in the punch, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
Star Wars has to be kind of bland. It has to be for little kids and for man children. Yeah. We elite can like Star Trek because we have more discerning taste. We can slum it and watch a Star Wars movie and have a good time, but for Star Wars, it's got to be really, really mainstream and really visually arresting, and that is perfect for Abrams, I think.
Okay, Ricardo, our loyal listener, Ricardo Henriquez, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, just happened to instant message me here on Facebook while we were talking, and he said, JJ was probably not going to direct the third Star Trek anyway. He certainly wasn't going to direct any films after that. He's perfectly suited for Star Wars. In his commentary for the 2009 Star Trek, all of his references were Star Wars. I see this as a win-win. Now that's coming from Ricardo is a big Star Trek fan, because I know he listens to Transporter Room 3, so he must be. Either that or he's a
Yeah, no, he's right. I mean, it's possible that he wasn't going to do the third one. In fact, probably more likely than not. It still makes him look like a pig.
Yeah, I agree. Well, so Phil, what's your take on it?
I mean, as of now, there is no announcement 100% that he will not come back to direct Star Trek 3. And I know that could all change, and there's a lot of read between the lines there. I don't think he will come back, but I don't think he's committed a really terrible crime against Star Trek fans, because I cannot fault someone for wanting to do what they've quote-unquote dreamed of doing. And if he's always loved Star Wars the way that we have loved Star Trek, if someone offered us a gig to do what we love the most, I would have to take it.
Yeah,
I can't fault anyone for trying to do that. And at the very least, his Star Wars movie will be not as bad as the last three.
Well, yeah. I
that's
mean,
not saying much.
my cat could direct the next Star Wars movie and make it better than the last.
I heard your cat was offered but wanted too much money.
So here's the thing. Star Trek fans are different than Star Wars fans, generally speaking. I'm not talking about people who became...
Are you trying to say we're fatter?
Fatter, get less sex, have more toys.
You have more.
We take it. I mean, we take it a lot more personally, right? So a lot of us can't help but see this as a betrayal, and I think, Jordan, what you're saying is, it's almost like the writing was on the wall from day one with Abrams that this was kind of could have happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something else, So it kind of stings. But having said that, I kind of see it as, and I feel that for sure. But I also kind of see it as a positive, because as much as I like Star Trek 2009, I did always feel that it was a Star Wars-ized version of Star Trek, which is a common complaint about the film.
And you're not just feeling that was a stated goal.
I guess so.
That was a stated goal.
I guess so. Yeah. Which, is antithetical to what Star Trek should be, I think, in a lot of ways. So, as much as I liked the film, I didn't love it the way I think you guys did. And so I've kind of, in a way, been biding my time. And we'll see what Star Trek Into Darkness winds up being all about. But I've been kind of biding my time, waiting for someone else to take over from Abrams anyway. So in a way, I see this as maybe a long-term positive for Star Trek, because you might get someone like, it's probably going to be someone in Abrams' camp who winds up making Star Trek 3. Who's the guy that made Cloverfield? Matt Reeves?
Matt Reeves. Yeah, he's a good director. The thing is this, though. I mean, Abrams will leave, but he'll still be involved. He'll be a producer. He'll drag it out. I mean, listen.
You think he will drag? You think he'll drag?
I do. I think because he's a pain in the ass. I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but the ultimate goal for all of us is to get a good Star Trek back on TV, correct? I mean, that's kind of what we all want, right?
I think so, yeah.
That would be a lot of fun.
Because that's where it belongs, the TV show first. And I think that the idea that I always had would be 3 movies, and then the third movie, I had this fantasy that the third movie would involve them landing on a planet or going to a space station or meeting up with some other ship. And then the characters from that meeting would then have their own television show. That would be the spin-off. Because you can't get Chris Pine and Zach Quinto to be on television because they're too big of stars. I just kind of want to get that to happen soon. And then when it looked like, JJ was going to do the first movie and then do Super 8, it looked like he was going to do the Chris Nolan plan of doing The Prestige and Inception in between the 2 Batman movies. Right. So maybe the silver lining is, as you said, if he's not going to direct the third one, we're not going to have to wait for a third film, and this third one's going to go into production really soon. As soon as the second one comes out and it's a big hit, they can figure out what the budget's going to be, blah, blah, blah. However, I just kind of feel like with any other person, it would happen that way. But with Abrams, who's got to be a bit of a control freak, it's not going to be like that. It's still going to take just as much time, and it's just going to be a really, really drawn-out process. I mean, I can't really say why I feel that way. It's just... It's just the vibe I get. Yeah. Then when the third one does come out, it's going to be maybe have a little bit less of a budget allotted to it because Abrams isn't directing. Although, Matt Reeves has done some really good stuff. He's the one who did Let Me In also, right? Or Let the Right One In, or whatever the American version was, which was really good, I thought.
It was really good, yeah.
Of course, we throw his name out there. God knows what his schedule would be, 2 years from now or whatever.
Right.
There are
my fear though is that if it is someone from Abrams' camp, it winds up being one of these writers, Lindelof or Orci or Kurtzman, one of these guys. One of the Orci or Kurtzman actually does
Kurtzman. He did a romantic comedy with Chris Pine that actually, for a quote unquote chick flick, was reasonable. Like, I didn't want to kill myself during it. Okay. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't good, don't get me wrong, but it was
High praise.
Yeah, it was okay. And
Praise.
Chris, what was it called? People Like Us, I think, right?
Yeah, I think
It was
maybe.
okay. And Chris Pine was very handsome in it and very charming. And there's like a little kid that he hangs around. They go to record shops and they listen to punk rock records and stuff. It's okay.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's not.
I feel like committing suicide now after you just.
Yeah, and there's like you know what? There's a scene. You know what bugged me is there's like a homophobic joke in there.
Really?
Yeah, and it was like the same weekend. I wrote an article about this. As it happened, there were like 3 movies coming out on the same day that had like, you know, "you're gay" being the punchline, and it was like, what year is this? And it was the woman character, and I don't remember her name. Whoever played the romantic lead in People Like Us. She looks like a younger Elizabeth Shue, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
I don't know. Janie.
Betty Brant from the Spider-Man movies. Is that?
I don't know.
Elizabeth Banks.
Was that who it was? Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
she looks like a younger Elizabeth Shue, doesn't she?
I'm waiting for her leaving Las Vegas nude scene.
Anyway, she is a bartender at the Standard Hotel in Los Angeles. Now, I've never been there, but I've been to the Standard Hotel in New York, and that is a very fabulous place, a very hip, cutting-edge place, which clearly has a large multicultural clientele, which means there are gay people working there and going there. So
Right.
you figured this would be a very hip, liberal gal, and she like makes a gay joke. And I'm like, that's just where the hell did that come from? You know?
That's weird. Yeah.
Anyway, so for all those reasons and more, Alex Kurtzman would be a fine director for Star Trek.
Right, there you go. So to get back to this notion of TV, I mean, I think one thing that this thing about Abrams has made me kind of realize is that what you're saying, Jordan, about that we all kind of really ultimately want a new Star Trek TV show. I think ultimately these films are going to kind of prove that maybe all the Star Trek films have proven this, but that it works better on TV, doesn't it? I mean, isn't Star Trek better as a TV show than it is as a movie?
I don't know. I don't know. I feel. I mean, if it worked better as a TV show, I mean, like the mission of the week aspect works better a little bit for the TV show audience, but I don't know. I'm really glad that as a film I got 2, 4, 6, 8, and Nemesis, obviously.
Which was just on, by the way. Oh God.
Burn it. Kill it before it lays eggs.
I love the Star Trek movies, but like when I think about my favorite like Star Trek moments, like so many of them are things that just wouldn't happen.
Episodes?
Yeah. Like the episode Family, where Picard goes back to the vineyard.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, like you're just not going to get that in a Star Trek.
No, I mean,
movie,
I definitely think like, and the whole Dominion War arc is all about the show, and all the the stuff that you just love the characters for is with the show. But the movies are great because they get bigger budgets and there's big production design moments, there's big emotional beats. I mean, I definitely like them both, but yeah, like it needs to be back on television, and maybe a cable station even with a higher budget. I mean, there's so many places they can go, and it just seems to me like now's the time to strike, especially down the road a few years when there's more Star Wars movies happening. It looks like Lucasfilm is going to want to pump one out a year, even more. They're thinking about these sort of side stories, which I think is great, and I'm excited for that. It's just, with that in the world, it loosens, the market share for Star Trek goes down a little bit with so much Star Wars stuff happening. Unfortunately, there are some people who just can't do both. So, I don't know.
Well, why can't... Here's the thing. Disney is really doing it right because they've got their Marvel stuff going on where you've got a movie every year or whatever, even more frequently than that maybe. They're making the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show. They've got all this animated stuff going on. There could be other live action shows in the pipeline. It's not clear right now. They're really mining it, and they're going to start, as you say, Jordan, they're going to start doing that with Star Wars. They've already started to hint at the fact that the Star Wars live action TV show probably will happen in a few years. They have the Clone Wars animated show, and there's all this talk about making movies aside from the prequels, and there's not one gatekeeper to all of this stuff either. Like, whereas Abrams is the guy who has the stranglehold on Star Trek.
I'll tell you something. The stranglehold is the exact word. I know for a fact, due to my deep inside connections, who I will not name, that members
Is it Chekhov?
members of the studio want that. They see that and they want to get that rolling. I mean, as simple as they want to have more, licensed toys and whatnot. And Abrams is a control freak, and the Bad Robot camp butts heads with the old school Star Trek camp in an office like setting.
But what is? I mean, Abrams basically just fucked Paramount over, right? Viacom, Paramount.
Well, this new development really changes things. But before that, even what I heard is that the vibe on behalf of
you heard this from Ensign Kelso.
I've heard this from Mr. Leslie, Ensign Kelso.
I'm not jokingly.
Wait. No, who's the guy that Kelowitz? Isn't there an Ensign Kelowitz?
Sure.
Yeah, Kelowitz.
Is that on the old?
Yeah. There's a Kelowitz. Kelowitz, get in there. I think it's from Arena. I think Kelowitz gets killed down on Cestus 3.
Does he get hit by one of those mortar shells?
Yes, I think he does. Ensign Kelowitz.
Kirk orders him to his death. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, I was about to make my big pronouncement, which is this: the vibe on behalf of the people who run the Star Trek brand
at Paramount.
Well, actually, it's at CBS.
CBS, okay.
CBS owns the brand.
That's right.
They have friction with Bad Robot because Bad Robot has taken the position that they really want to pretend that Star Trek prior to 2009 is just this little thing that doesn't exist. Now, they have a point in that audience does get smaller every year. It ages out, and they really but they really don't embrace the culture. And they're like, no, this is our show. We're doing it our way. And there's really not a lot of harmony between the two camps.
Wow.
I think if there was, you would maybe see an animated show at least by now, or just more stuff going on, which nobody plays before the movie each year, and a couple of dopey toys. And, they have those comics now, which I need to catch up on. I guess, sure, there's plenty of tie-in stuff, but it's not the way you just suggested, the way Lucasfilm is doing it with Star Wars, and the way that Marvel is really crushing it. I mean, it's just ridiculous how Marvel has become an empire. So, will that change with JJ going to Star Wars? I certainly hope so. Now, the other thing you mentioned is, imagine the headache of a poor publicist at Paramount who got this news about JJ doing this, because every single question at the Star Trek junket is going to be about Star Wars.
Right, and that kind of
Absolutely.
Paramount must be sweating.
It's not. It just deflates the balloon. It's ridiculous. I mean, people are going to be interviewing poor Anton Yelchin. Nobody wants to talk to him. He finally,
except you, because he's your inside source.
Well, right. Anton Yelchin finally gets in front of a camera for the junket. He's at the Beverly Hilton, and some schmo from Collider.com is going to ask Anton Yelchin a question, and the poor Anton Yelchin's going to have to listen to something about Star Wars. How do you feel that Jake is doing Star Wars? I think it's great. What a visionary. It's going to be so exciting to compare and contrast the two.
Think about the confusion that exists, among these sort of mainstream junket people. We've all done the junkets. We know what you've got the fanboy geek sites who we work for, and then you have the people from the mainstream outlets who don't know Star Trek.
Zoo out of Missouri. Yeah, I mean it's
yeah. So
it's going to be difficult.
Horrific.
I mean, I remember there was a very funny conversation I had with Ann. I was over Twitter. Ann Thompson, who's a wonderful, respected journalist of cinema and inside Hollywood.
Sure.
And this was when Green Lantern was in the development, and it had a green light, and Green Hornet had a green light, and there was some talk about Green Arrow, and she just said, "I give up. I can't take all these. Who the hell are these green people?" So I sent her a note, sent her DMs explaining, and then I said, "And by the way, Green Arrow and Green Lantern are friends, and in the '70s they fought for social justice." But let's
right, yeah. Also, yeah, Green Arrow's a partner was addicted to heroin. Right. Also, FYI.
So, speaking of people getting confused, my poor parents, and like I said, I got no beef with Star Wars. I love Star Wars, but I remember one time I came home for the weekend, and my mother was like, "Oh, we got you a present." I'm 29, 30 years old this time. You got me a present? Yeah. Yes, we went to the post office the other day, and we got you some Star Trek stamps. I mean, they didn't go just for that, but they happened to be at the post office anyway. I'm like, oh, Star Trek stamps. Oh, that's cool. Great, thanks. Here, they're right over here. And she hands me a bunch of stamps with Darth Vader on them. She you love Star Trek. I'm like, yes, I do love Star Trek. Thank you. Well, here they are. And I'm like, do you know who this guy is? She goes, no. I'm like, this is Darth Vader. Have you heard of Darth Vader? Yeah. I'm like, who is Darth Vader? And she's like, Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. Like, that's all. I'm like, great. Okay, so this is all about Star Trek. Yeah, right. I'm like, come on.
That's awesome.
And then, I mean, and this is with you having watched Star Trek in their house for years.
Yeah, right? She would have to scream at me to turn it off to come to dinner, and I'm like, well, Picard is, he's in the neutral zone. Come on.
I remember when I think it must have been when the first Star Wars came out. I professed my love of it immediately.
As you should.
And my uncle bought me a birthday present, and I opened it, and it was like this really shitty knockoff toy called Space Wars.
Nice.
And I was old enough to know that this wasn't right, and of course, and I was so disappointed. And then I think I even said, like, what is this? And he said, oh, I thought you really liked that movie, Space Wars. And I still remember being so disappointed, but I also I look back on it and I say, God, my uncle really was not clued in at all as to what was going on in pop culture. I mean, it was the biggest movie in the fucking history of movies, right? At that point, and he couldn't get it right. Like,
right.
So, and that persists. People
Listen, hey, right now, like, I have a little niece, and if I was told that she was really into the band One Direction, what are the chances that I would get her the proper One Direction tie-in product?
Right.
It's very likely I would get her the Space War version of One Direction.
Right, yeah, that's true. So what do you guys think, I mean, Jordan, maybe you have some inside word on this, I don't know, but Mr. Fancy Pants over here.
I've given you all my inside intel.
Okay.
I'm sure that I'll feel the repercussions once they listen to the next edition of Transporter Room 3.
Right, yeah. How dumbstruck was Paramount by this? When do you?
Oh, I don't know that, but I can imagine an emergency 8 a.m. meeting was called, and the ultimate result of that is there's nothing they can do. You know what? It's just they're going to have to forge ahead, and it's funny because I think it was
learn from putting so much faith in this guy and start doing some of the stuff that we're talking about, where bring in a Zack Snyder to make a standalone fucking Deep Space Nine movie or whatever, create new characters, samurais in Star Trek with Zack Snyder, whatever. Like why are they beholden to Bad Robot? I mean, obviously we don't know what it's all about, but maybe this is a kick in the pants that Paramount and CBS need, right? I
think that would be great. I think that would be phenomenal. Bring back the original timeline for some sort of something.
The 5 captains.
Right, yeah. Bring back Captain Janeway. Believe me, there's nothing George Takei wants more in life than to put on that damn suit one more time and pretend.
But you know what? Would that be a mistake?
No, it would be awesome to have Sulu as like an elder statesman admiral.
I love Sulu, but he can't act his way out of a bag.
You don't have to act. He's just sit in a chair and be the admiral and let other people do it.
I guess
just be awesome. Yeah. Who from the original timeline would you most want to see back in Star Trek today?
Well, Nimoy.
Yeah, but other than that, because we've seen him.
I want McGivers.
The goat. McGivers. I think the actress died. Actually.
You know what would be for me, strangely enough, is I have a real relationship with, like, more than some of my actual relatives, with Janeway. Like, I love her. I want her to feel happiness, like I want her to like me. Like I want to do good things for her,
Have you ever met Kate Mulgrew?
No, I've never met her, but I've been to I've seen her do her shtick at the conventions on more than one occasion. Okay. And she's marvelous. She's the best one up there. She's a tremendous presence.
I'm sure.
And
she's a pro.
Yeah. And she from what I hear, she turns down work because she just loves her life. She owns a giant townhouse up in Harlem, and she occasionally does theater, and she does like some community stuff, and she gets offers all the time, and she's like, nah. She's just having a good time. And she did that NTSF SVU jokey thing because it was really quick and funny. Yeah. It took her maybe a weekend to do the whole season, and she got to be goofy in it. She never gets comedy.
It's great.
You know,
it's great. Have you seen that, Phil?
I have. That show does make me giggle.
I love that she's willing to have fun like that too.
Right. I mean, the other offers she gets, I'm sure she gets a lot of like, you know, low budget or like independent or low budget stuff to play grandma. And she's like, "Give me a friggin' break! I'm Captain Janeway. Get out of my face."
Yeah. And before that, I was Mrs. Columbo.
Right.
Whatever that was, I've never seen that. So, what do we not cover? What aspect of? Oh, I know what we're not getting to. Your story that you wrote for UGO back when Abrams was doing his road show, showing off footage for the 2009.
Right, I linked to this from the piece I wrote for Bad Digest. Which
that's how I found it. Right. So now there was a lot of hate directed towards Abrams in that story. I mean, there really was.
Really?
Because it came across as if you were even like heckling him at the event.
I did heckle him at the event. I did, because he came. All right, let's just set this up. This is 2008, right? It was before.
I guess.
Sure.
Right. Before anyone had seen anything of the new Star Trek, before we knew anything really. And he did 3 press events. He did one in London, and then in New York, and then in Los Angeles. And the one in London, I tried not to read because I knew I was seeing it a day later. But what I gleaned from the early reports was that he came out there, and part of his talking points was to say, "Hello, my name is JJ, and I think Star Trek is lame. I'm not a fan, but now I'm a fan because I love it. You know, because I made this film. I learned to love the characters." That was the shtick that he was going out with, which just struck me as really odious. You know what I mean? What kind of way?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the marketing people. He's like, "Oh, Star Trek's for geeks, but we have to make it cool. So we're gonna say we're gonna distance ourselves from it, and then say it is cool." I could see through that a mile away. So I said to myself, if he does that in New York, God help me, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So there's an event at one of the major screening rooms here in Manhattan, the 34th Street one. Not very crowded. You know, they're in the big room, and maybe 35 people tops. A lot of people in suits, a lot of security people, a lot of people from, at the time I was working for UGO, so you had the geek sites, you had Harry Knowles was flown in from Austin, he was there, and then you had the straight press there as well. Abrams comes out in a $1,000 suit, and he says, "Hi, I'm JJ, and I am not a Star Trek fan." That's the first thing the ever-loving guy says.
I love the footnote about it being $1,000 suit.
$1,000 suit because he wanted to dress down. You know, he looked sharp. The guy looked sharp. I met him, by the way, and he's a very charming guy. You know,
of course.
But on a professional level, we have to have this little conflict. So, anyway, comes up there and he says, "Hi, my name's JJ, and I'm not a Star Trek fan." And then from within me, it was like the episode. It was like what's the one where the woman? It was when I screwed it up. One of the episodes where you're possessed. It's like a pa wraith from inside of me. Just goes boo really loudly in front of, like, you know, the guy from the New York Times is there, and I'm like, boo. And he looks up, and he's like, "Who is this big, fat, disgusting creature booing me?" And, like, you know, the people from Paramount are there having heart attacks. And then he looks at me down, and he goes, "Well, you're," and he's spun. He's a gifted gentleman. He goes, "You're right. You are right to boo, sir, because I used to think Star Trek was bad, but now I love it. And gee willikers, these guys, these Kirk and Spock are the greatest," and blah blah blah. And then later he recovered. And then later he wanted to mention Spock, and like for whatever reason he couldn't remember the name, and I think at first it was legit, and sometimes it's on the tip of your tongue when you forget it.
Sure.
So he said. So then later Kirk goes up to Spock, and he goes, "You know, the guy with the pointy ears," and I'm like, "F you, the guy with the pointy ears." Like, that is Spock. You don't understand that. That is the first Vulcan to be in Starfleet. You don't understand. I mean,
the son of Sarek.
He's the son of Sarek. He's a student of Surak, you know?
The half-brother of Cybok.
Half-brother of Cybok, yeah. He killed his pet Saylat during his Kazwan.
Don't talk about that, man.
Ichaya died for our sins. Ichaya died during Spock's Kazwan, and you're saying the dude with the pointy ears? He ceased his own Kolinar to aid V'ger. And you're calling him the guy with the pointy ears? How dare you, sir? So, yes, that got
was Chapel's pet name for Spock.
What's that, Phil?
That was Nurse Chapel's pet name for Spock. Pointy ears, come here.
Yes, the apple of Nurse Chapel's eye.
What did you guys?
I made you some soup, pointy ears. Come on. I got you some puberty soup.
Yes, right.
Everyone listening, go Google it. Jordan Hoffman wrote the story on UGO 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it was, and it's a real hoot. Yeah, go check it out.
The funny thing is that then the movie comes out and I love it, and it's terrific. Right. And listen, I think the movie was great. And you know what? Star Trek Into Darkness has the most ridiculous title in history. It's going to be great. I know it's going to be great, but it's just he makes it difficult.
It might be great, but how dumb is it going to be? I mean, I think ultimately that's my problem with Abrams, his stuff in general.
Like the red matter. Ooh, red matter will just fix it.
So many aspects of it. I mean, it's like the Starfleet the entire Starfleet winds up being run by a bunch of cadets because the whole fleet was wiped out by one advanced ship or something. Like, it doesn't make I guess that's what happens. It doesn't really make any kind of tactical sense. Like, right. Why did they send the whole fleet?
Right, and what's the Next Generation and these things, they were always smart enough to leave that off screen. Like the Battle of Wolf 359, we never really
cheap enough.
Yeah, they were cheap enough. We never really saw what happened at the head of command. We just kind of put the pieces together ourselves. This one,
right? I just think there's a lot of just kind of dumb story points in it, which is not Abrams necessarily, I guess. I don't know,
yeah.
But, what did you guys think of the video that I guess we'll have to wrap this up.
Right. No, well, I was going to bring this up before. Literally yesterday, Paramount put out a very small featurette, and it showed some footage which looked fine. Not too much that we hadn't seen in the trailer, and then it had some talking head stuff of JJ, and all I could think about was, you left us for Star Wars. And it's very immature of me, and we've just spent a good deal of time talking about how, he can still do Star Wars and it'll be fine for Star Wars, and Star Trek maybe won't be affected in the least. But I didn't hear a word the guy said. All I thought was, you left us for Star Wars. And that's got to piss off Paramount so much, because I can't be the only guy thinking that. And this guy's got to do a press tour soon. What is it? It's February. It's almost February. The movie comes out in May. This guy's got to do a massive publicity campaign, and it's going to be just totally overshadowed by Star Wars. It's got to be killing them. I mean, listen, Paramount is probably the best marketing team of the major 6 studios. I would say they have a really sharp group of people there. They pulled off that whole, from Paranormal Activity on, they rarely miss a beat. So they'll figure it out, but it's a challenge,
Do you think they're going to issue a mandate, no Star Wars questions?
They can't, because they do it and that becomes a story.
Right. Yeah.
They have to just deal with it. They're going to have a major talk with everybody and say, this is how you deal with the Star Wars questions. You can't shut it down. You just have to be positive and say that you're excited and hope that whoever's asking the questions will move on.
Right. Yeah. It the video to me, it just felt so small and so sad for some reason.
It did. It felt like it repurposed a lot of what we've seen in the trailers, and that little clip montage thing at the end of the IMAX preview. There wasn't really anything new to it, and the entire time I'm watching it, going, "What's happening with Star Wars?"
Right. Yeah. And so, I mean, I guess this was Paramount trying to respond somehow, like we're still here.
Oh, maybe that's right. Maybe that was maybe that was a direct attack on Star Wars, or not attack, but that was a reaction to. I just figured it was part of the timeline anyhow. Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like they must have decided to do something.
Yeah, a little strategy on their part to maybe steer the conversation back to Star Trek. It's just, I mean, that movie's coming out, and all people want to talk about in association with that is the one that's coming out 2 years after it.
Yeah.
It's like, and that kind of, I feel bad for the movie, because now people are going into it, people who weren't on board with 2009's Trek, that are Star Wars fans, they're going into it now going, oh, this guy, I hope this movie is worth it. I hope this movie is a good indicator of what I'm going to get for Star Wars.
Right. Or they see,
Yeah.
they
Kind of
see
that movie an unfair shot.
Yeah, they see it as, well, this isn't what he really wants to do. You know, now he's finally in the band he wants to be.
I guess the positive thing for Paramount, if there is a positive, is that Abrams, of course, is so secretive about everything that the mystery box is now closed on Star Wars already. So he's not gonna really have anything to say except the real general, I'm happy and I'm excited to do this or whatever. And by the time they do start doing press for Star Trek, they might be able to manage the Star Wars thing to some degree because of Abrams being so secretive.
Right.
Anyway.
But, you know, this is something that actually Devin Faraci wrote about at Badass Digest, was at least the way they marketed the first 3 prequels, or the most recent 3 prequels. They didn't do a whole mystery box thing. You know, it was quite the opposite of how Abrams does his thing. And it'll be interesting to see how the Lucasfilm culture and the Bad Robot culture works it out, because
well, it's also the Disney culture, though, right? Because I mean, it's going to be Disney's marketing, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, it'll be for a project this big, it'll be a unique thing. You know, it'll be a nice. They'll probably have a special lieutenant in charge of everything on this one, and they have to find a way, because you're right. The way Disney does, they put out a zillion character posters and a lot of they go broad. They do not dish it out piecemeal the way Abrams does. So it'll be curious to see. Not our headache. Somebody, that's a different podcast's headache. But it is, nevertheless, here we are. The prom is over. The punch bowl is empty. We're ready to go. We're ready to be violated in the backseat of a car, and there's no one there to violate us because we have been dumped for the cheerleader. We put in contact lenses for tonight. We took out our retainer. We got all the necessary preparations at the drugstore. We were ready to go.
Are these all the things you did at your prom, Jordan?
Well, yes, I was a 16-year-old girl at my prom.
So was I.
No, we were ready to go. We were ready to be deflowered, and we are walking home alone. Our corsage has wilted, and we have no one. We have Matt Reeves to take us to deflower us.
Well, on that note, I think we'll jump ahead essentially for our red shirt of the week.
We take this time to remember those who have laid their lives down for Starfleet. This is the red shirt of the week.
Who do we have, Phil?
It's an oldie, but a goodie. Oldie-ish, I should say. Nell Chilton. Do we remember that name?
This is not the Jodie Foster character.
This is not Pananawe. No, it's not that. But I wish it was. I wish Nell was on Star Trek.
Let's see how good are you, Jordan? I did not know who this was.
Nell Chilton was a red shirt. Is it a TOS red shirt?
It is.
Well, it might not technically be might not technically be someone who wore a red shirt.
I know.
Although I think
I know who it is. Is it the woman in Charlie X who wore a science blue and whose face turned into nothing when
No, but damn it, that's a good one.
Ah, man, we should do her instead.
Oh, come on, this
Although
is
she
live.
technically didn't die, I don't think.
Who is Nell Chilton?
Nell Chilton is the ensign helmsman aboard the Pasteur in All Good Things.
Whoa.
And we haven't done a full death by console explosion yet. And I really want to get into that.
So the consoles were blowing up on the Enterprise D, right?
Really?
In the regular
Starfleet has the worst electricians.
And the Pasteur is like, well, how many years in the future is that? 30 or 40 years in the future?
Right. From the 24th century.
For the future from regular Next Generation timeline, right? So they still haven't fixed these consoles that keep blowing up, right?
Yeah, they haven't fixed the consoles. The ceilings still spool out wires like they're fucking angel hair pasta. I don't get it.
Well, hey, I mean, a photon torpedo packs a lot of power. I mean, it's she died, but she did get to live the ultimate dream of being the helmsman
on a fucking medical ship,
Yeah.
captained by Bev in age makeup on the Klingon border.
Yeah,
She
that
still
was
look
her
cute.
Do
She
you
still
think
look
she
cute.
got pranked? But by like you think she got like mean emails or communiques from her academy people, the people she went to school with, like, hey, congratulations, flying the pest to her. What's
I don't know,
that?
man. She was out in the outer rim, just securing the Tepian blight and all these other sort of spaceborne diseases. I think that's a cool gig.
She,
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. I think that's an anti-cool gig. If I were her, I would have hung myself outside the ship.
Oh,
And
Well, everyone, you know what? It's like going to film school. Everyone goes to film school because they want to be Spielberg,
Right.
but most people wind up being
his Mexican
Mel,
non-union
right?
equivalent,
right.
Senor Spielbergo.
Right. You can't all be Rikers and Picards and
Right,
Kirks,
right. Yeah, some people, or they
Sometimes
have to
that's
be
the
like
call,
in,
though.
they have to be in Tapestry. They have to be Picard in a blue costume.
Oh my God, that's the saddest. That should, you know what? That should be our next red shirt. The Picard in the blue tunic, but he's spiritually dead.
He is a
right?
spiritual red shirt, exactly.
We should do.
Oh man, what a terrible way to end this.
Well, I
podcast.
like that you ended it with a female red shirt because they are few and far between, but they exist even as far back as TOS, which was quite revolutionary for its time. And in fact, I'll ask you a question: how was the first female red shirt on TOS killed?
Gosh, first female red shirt on the old series, the original series.
I want to say the only
That's a
female
dark
red
joke
shirt
for that, but I'll save it.
Well,
I don't remember her name, but I can tell you how she was killed.
Yeah, I'm drawing a
She
blank.
was turned into an octagon of.
Oh, then crushed. Is that
Crushed.
Is that the Asian woman?
No, I think she was a blonde.
Yeah, it was the tall, skinny black dude and the hot chick were both turned into sponges.
I think we've talked about them on the show.
Yeah, that disturbed me the freak
Oh,
out.
of course
when I
it
was
did.
a
And it's a
kid.
great episode. I forget the name of the episode too because I'm having a weird day. But it was it
By
was
any other name.
They are,
yes, by any other name, and they came from the Andromeda Galaxy, which means they crossed the galactic barrier. And it has one of the great sort of like tag backs to earlier Trek, and Shatner's comedy really shines through because the main baddie says, there's a barrier between the galaxies, and he goes, "Yeah, we've been there." It's like, yeah. It's called Where No Man Has Gone Before, douche. We know about it.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out
I had
so
to
well.
kill my
It's like
best
Gary-
friend, ass bag.
Yeah, exactly.
it's a rare touch of continuity.
It is.
on the
It's a
original
rare touch of
series.
continuity, and it's
Yeah.
also done very tongue-in-cheek. It's like he's pissed off, but it's kind of funny, too. He's like, yeah, I know. I've been there. Gary Mitchell
Don't be a
died.
kid.
Schmuck. It's a great little moment. Really funny.
Well, listen, Jordan, thanks so much for coming
Yeah,
to visit
Jordan,
us
thank
at
you, man.
Transporter Room 3.
I
It's
always accept an invitation to beam on to Transporter Room 3. It is among my favorite places to be, and what can I say? I'll see you next time.
Yeah, be sure to check out Jordan's writings all across the World Wide Web. And where are you on Twitter?
I'm the J Hoffman 6. It's just JHOFFMAN and then the numeral 6. And mostly these days writing for film.com and for Screen Crush, and still writing the weekly column at StarTrek.com called One Trek Mind.
That's
This
right.
weekend, I have a really funny article devoted entirely to our favorite Cayetan, Lieutenant Mores.
The cat
Yeah,
chick?
the cat chick.
All right. Nice.
There you go. It's
you go.
will be published in probably a day or so.
I like
All
this.
right. Well, it's a pleasure talking to you guys as always.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you all again on Gravette Island.